Okay. 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 Still. Well, this is updating. I can weed something out. Is all both there, so it shouldn't be long, best. Until then, when Ravna and North Central Massachusetts chased Sula and Fork at the junction of the old Bowie Pike, just beyond Dean's Corners, he comes upon a lonely and curious country. This mountain gets higher, and the bordered still walls press closer and closer again through the dusty, curving road. The trees of the fleet rounded and symmetrical to give a sense of comfort in naturalness. There. An hour. That is not good. Okay. The sum is out too rounded and symmetrical to give a sense of comfort and naturalness, and them times the silky silhouettes with a special clearness. The queer circle of tall stone pillars with which most of them are crowned. Gorges and ravine, the problematical depths intersect the way, and the crude wooden bridges always seem of dubious safety. When the road dips again, you're straight to the marshland that one instinctively dislikes, and indeed almost fears at evening when unseen whippoorwills chatter and the fireflies come out in abnormal profusion to dance the raucous,
creepily insistent with some mutts of stew ridently, piping
and slovenly mercantile establishment to the ham. One dreads to trust the tenebrous knoll of the bridge, yet there is no way to avoid. On the grass, it is heard to prevent the impression of a faint, line odor about the village street, as of the massed mold and decay of centuries. It is always a relief to get clear of the place, and to follow the narrow road around the hills and across the level country beyond till we join the Aylesbury Pike. Afterward, one sometimes learns ere one has been through the Dunwich. 16%, not good. Out that a visit Dunwich as seldom as possible, and since it's a certain season of horror, all the signboards pointing towards it have been taken down. The scenery, judged by any ordinary aesthetic canon, is more than commonly beautiful. Yet there is no influx of artists or thaumaturgs forest 2 centuries ago, and witch blood, faking worship, and strange forest presences was not laughed at. It was a custom to give reasons for avoiding the locality. Now a sensible age, since the Dunwich Order of 1928 was hushed up by those who had the towns and the world welfare at heart. People shun it without knowing exactly why. Perhaps the reason, though it cannot apply to uninformed strangers, is that the native, the know politically decadent, having gone far along that path of retrogression, so common in many New England backwaters, they have come to form beliefs by themselves. It's a well-defined mental and physical stigmata of degeneracy and inbreeding. The average of their intelligence is woefully low, while their inner reek of overt viciousness and of half-hidden murder, incest, and most unknowable violence and perversity. The old gentry, representing the 2 or 3 Armingerius families which came from Phalum in 1692, have got somewhat above the ground, above the general level of decay, though my branches are sunk to distorted populace so deeply that only the names remain as the key to the origin of their disgrace. Some of the Waterleys and bishops still send their eldest sons to Harvard and Miskatonic, though those sons seldom return to the Moulton and Gamwell roofs under which they and their ancestors were born. No one, even those who have the facts concerning the recent horror, and say just what is the matter with Dunwich. Though all legends speak of unhallowed rites and contraries of the Indians, amidst which they call forbidden shapes of shadow out of the great rounded hills, and made wild, bogiastic prayers that were answered by loud cracking and rumbling from the ground below. In 1747, the Reverend Abijah Hoadley, newly come to the Congregational Church at Dunwich Village, preached a memorable sin and other close present the station and his inns. And she said, "It must be allowed that these blasphemies of an infernal train of demons, the matters of too common knowledge, be denied. The cursed voice of Azazel and Boazweo, of Beelzebub and Belial, being heard now from underground by above a score of credible witnesses now living. I myself did not more than a fortnight ago cast a very plain discourse of evil powers in the hill behind my house, wherein there were a rattling and a rolling, groaning, screeching, and hissing, such as no scene of this earth could rise at, and which must needs have come from Death Cave that only pragmatic can discover, and only the devil among. Mr. Hoadley disappeared soon after delivering this sermon, but the text, Punchedins to Springfield, is still extant. Noises in the hills continue to be reported from year to year, and still form a puzzle to geologists and videographers. Other traditions tell of foul odors near the hill crawling circle of stone pillars, and of rushing airy presences to be heard faintly at certain hours from stated points at the bottom of the great ravines. While others try to explain the devil's hop yard, a bleak, blasted hillside where no tree, shrub, or grass blade will grow. Then, too, the natives are mortally afraid of the numerous whippoorwills that grow vocal on warm nights. You smell that the bird and has psychopaths lying in wait for the dole of the dying, and that the time that it requires in unison with the Sephira's struggling breast. If they catch the fleeing soul when it leaves the body, they instantly flutter away, chittering in demonic laughter. But as they fail, they subside gradually into a disappointed silence. These tales, of course, are obsolete and ridiculous, because they come down from very old times. Dunwich is indeed ridiculously old, older by far than any of the communities within 30 miles of it. South of the village, when my stills fired the fellow walls and chimney of the ancient bishop house, which was built in 1700, whilst the ruins of the mill at the Falls, built in 1806, on the most modern piece of architecture to be seen. Industry did not flourish here, and the 19th century factory movement proved short-lived. Oldest of all are the grey rings of buff-hewn stone column from the hilltop, but these are more generally attributed to the Indians than to the settlers. Deposits of gold and bone found vicinity circles and around the sizable table-like rock on Thisno Hill sustained the popular belief that such spots were once the burial places of the Bogumtucks, even though many ethnologists, disregarding the absurd improbability of such a theory, persist in believing the remains Caucasian. Yep, this had taken longer than... Good news, this is in the public domain, so I'm free to read it. Well, I should be. While the two of who as a down loves continue to take place. Yeah, that's not good. Not good at all. It was in the township of Dunwich, in a large and partly inhabited farmhouse that against the hillside 4 miles from the village, and 1.5 miles from any other dwelling. The Wilbur Wiley is born at 5 a.m. on Sunday, the 2nd of February, 1913. This date was recalled because it was Candlemas, which people in Dunwich curiously observe under another name, and because the noises from the hill had sounded, and all the dogs of the countryside had barked persistently throughout the night before. Less worthy of notice was the fact that the mother was one of the decadent Watleys, a somewhat deformed, unattractive albino woman of 35, living with an aged and half-insane father, about whom the most frightful tales of wizardry had been whispered in his youth. Lavinia Watley had no known husband, but, according to the custom of the region, made no attempt to disavow the child. Considering the other side of whose ancestry the country folk might, and did, speculate as widely as it chose. On the contrary, see things cringed of proud of the dark, goatish-looking infant who formed such a contrast to her own sickly and pink-eyed albinism, and was hither to mutter many curious policies about its unusual palace and tremendous features. Lavinia was one who would be apt to mutter such things, for she was a lone creature given to wandering amidst thunderstorms in the hills and trying to read the great odorous books which her father had inherited through 2 centuries of Wadleys, and which were fast-falling pieces of his age and wormholes. She had never been to school, but was filled with disjointed scraps of ancient lore that old Wadley had taught her. The remote farmhouse had always been feared because of old Wadley's reputation for black magic, and the unexplained death by violence of Mrs. Wadley when Lavinia was 12 years old had not been helped to make the place popular. Isolated among strange influences, Lavinia is fond of wild and grandiose daydreams and things-well occupations, nor were their leisure much taken up by household cares in a home from which all standards of order and cleanliness had long since disappeared. It was a hideous screaming which echoed above even the hill noises and dogs barking on the night Wilbur was born. But no known doctor or midwife would sign at his coming. Neighbors knew nothing of him till a week afterward, when old Watley drove his sleigh through the snow into Dunwich village and discoursed incoherently to the group of loungers at Off-Front General Store. There seemed to be a change in the old man, an added element of furtiveness, and the clouded brain which steadily transformed him from an object to a subject of fear, though he was not one to be perturbed by any common animal event. Amidst it all, he eschewed some trace of pride might have nourished in his daughter, and what he said of the child's paternity will be remembered by many of its hearers year afterward. I don't care what folks think. If for Lenny Levany boy looked like his pa, he wouldn't look like nothing you expect. You needn't think the only folks is the folks hereabout. The Vinny's led them and has seen something to most the yell and the tell about. And calculate her man as good a husband as ye can find the side of Aylesbury. And if ye knew that much as about them hill that I drew, ye wouldn't ask no better church wedding nor hunting. Let me tell you something. Someday your folks'll hear a child of Lebanese a calling its father's name atop of Sentinel Hill. The only person who saw Wilbur during the first months of his life was old Zechariah Wamley, with the undecayed Wavleys, and old Doyer's common-law wife, Mammy Bishop. Mammy's bishop were as frankly one of curiosity. Mammy's visit was frankly one of curiosity, and a subsequent tale did justice to her observations. But Zechariah came to lead a pair of Alderney cows which old Watney had bought of his son Curtis. This marked the beginning of a course of cattle buying on the part of small Wilbur's family, which ended only in 1928, when the Dunwich War came and went. It at no time did the ramshackle Watley barn seem overcrowded with livestock. There came a period when people were curious enough to skill up and count the herd that grazed precariously on the steep hillside above the old farmhouse, and they could never find more than 10 or 12 anemic, bloodless-looking specimens. Evidently, from blight or distemper, perhaps sprung from the unwholesome pasturage, or the diseased fungi and timber of the filthy blood, caused a heavy mortality amongst the waddly animals. Old worms or sores having something of the aspect of infection seemed to afflict the visible cattle. And once or twice during the earlier month, certain colors fancied they could discern similar sores among the swopes as a gray, unshaven old man and his slashily, crinkly haired albino daughter. Oh, dangerous water. In the spring after Wilbert first, Lavinia resumed her customary ramble in the hill, bearing in her mid-proportioned arms this worthy child. Public interest in her, in the Wadleys, subsided after most of the country folk had seen the baby, and no one bothered to comment on the squish development which that newcomer seemed every day to exhibit. What was gross was indeed phenomenal, or was in 3 months at birth. He had attained a size and muscular power not usually found in infants under a full year of age. His motions, and even his vocal sound, showed a restraint and voluptuousness highly peculiar in an infant, and no one was really unprepared, and when, at 7 months, he began to walk unassisted, was faltering, which another month was sufficient to remove. It was somewhat after this time, at Halloween, that a great blaze was seen at midnight on the top of Sentinel Hill, with the old table-like stone stand that missed its tumulus of ancient bones. Considerable talk was started when still as bishop, the undecayed bishop, mentioned having seen the boy running up steadily up that hill ahead of his mother about an hour before the place remarked. Silas was rounding up a stray heifer, but he nearly forgot his mission when he fleetingly spied the 2 figures in the dim light of his lantern. It darted almost noiselessly through the underbrush, and the astonished watcher seemed to think they were entirely unclothed. Afterward, he could not be sure about the boy, who may have had some kind of fringed belt and a pair of depth trunks of trousers on. Wilbur was never subsequently seen alive, unconscious without complete and tightly buttoned attire. The disarrangement or threatened disarrangement of which always seemed to fill him with anger and alarm. His contrast with his small mother and grandfather in this respect was that very notable into the whole of 1928 suggested the most valid of reasons. The next January, gossip were mildly interested in the fact that Lavinia's black brat had commenced to talk, and at the age of only 11 months, his speech was somewhat remarkable, both because of its difference from the ordinary accent of the legend, and because it displayed a freedom from infantile lisping of which many children of 3 or 4 might well be proud. The boy was not talkative, yet when he spoke, he seemed to reflect some induced element wholly unpossessed by Dunwich and if Denison. The strangeness did not reside in what he said, or even in the simple idiom he used, but seemed vaguely linked with its intonation, or with the internal organs that produced the spoken sound. His facial aspect, too, was marked for its maturity, for though he shared his mother's and grandfather's chinlessness, his firm and precociously shaped nose united with the expression of the slightest gap, almost Latin eyes to give him an air of porthy adulthood, and well-nigh preternatural intelligence. He was, however, extremely ugly at his appearance of brilliancy, there being something almost goatish or animalistic about his thick lips, large pored yellowish skin, coarse quintly hair, and oddly elongated ears. Soon disliked keep him more savory than his mother and grandsire, and all conjectures about him was vice references to the bygone magic of old Wadley, and how the hills once shook when he shrieked the dreadful name of Yab Bata, sauce da sauce, in the midst of a circle of stones, as a great book opened in his hands before him. Dogs abhorred the boy, and he was always obliged to take various defensive measures against their barking menace. 52 minutes, good. Hope Will went out, I'll tell you to read before then. Meanwhile, old Wadley continued to buy cattle without measurably increasing the size of its herd. He also cut timber and began to repair the unused part of its home. A spacious, peak-roofed affair at Ruya End was buried entirely in the rocky hillside. His 3 meat-run ground-floor rooms had always been sufficient for himself and his daughter. There must have been prodigious reserves of strength in the old man to enable him to accomplish so much hard labor. And, though his dog babbled dementedly at times, his carpentry seemed to shew the effects of sound calculation. It had already begun as soon as Wilbur was born, when one of the many tool sheds had been put suddenly in order, clapboarded and fitted with a stout fresh lock. Now, in restoring the abandoned upper story of the house, he was a no less thorough craftsman. Its mania shewed itself only in his tight boarding up of all the windows in the reclaimed section. So, many declare that it was a crazy thing to bother with the reclamation at all. Less inexplicable was his fitting up with another downstairs room for his new grandson. A room which several callers saw. Then no one was ever admitted to the grossly boarded upper story. This chamber, he lined, with tall, firm shelving, along which he began gradually to arrange in apparently careful order all the rotting ancient books and parts of books, which during his own day had been heaped promiscuously in odd corners of various rooms. I made some use of them. He would say as he tried to mend a torn black-letter page with paste prepared on the rusty kitchen stove. The boys fitting to make better use of them. He'd ought to have them as well sought as he can, for they going to be all of his land. Found it. When Wilbur was a year and 7 months old, in September of 1914, his size and accomplishments were almost alarming. He had grown up as the child of 4, and he was a fluent and incredibly intelligent talker. He ran freely about the fields and hills, and accompanied his mother on all her wandering. At home, he would pore diligently over the queer pictures and charts in his grandfather's book, while old Watley would instructing catechize him through long, hushed afternoons. By this time, the restoration of the house was finished, and those who watched it wondered why one of the upper windows had been made into a solid plank door. Only a window in the rear of the east gable end, close against the hill, and no one could figure out why a pleated wooden runway was built up to it from the ground. About the period of this work's completion, people noticed that the old tool-house, tightly locked and windowlessly clapboarded, since Wilbur's birth, had been abandoned again, the doors one withfully open, and when Al Sawyer once stepped beside Asher Carol Collin, cattle-selling call in old Wadley, he was quite discomposed by the singular odor he encountered. Such a stench, he averred, as he had never smelt in all his life took it near the Indian circle from the hill, and which could not come from anything sane or of his earth. But then, the homelands shed the Dunwich folk have never been remarkable for olfactory immaculateness. The following months were void of his what event, save that everyone swore to a slow but steady increase in the mysterious hill noises. On May Eve in 1915, there were tremors which even the Aylesbury people felt, whilst the following Halloween produced an underground rumbling, queerly synchronized with bursts of flame, than which Watley's doined from the summit of Sentinel Hill. Wilbur was grown up uncannily, so that he looked like a boy of 10 at the end of the 4th year. He read avidly by himself now, but talked much less than formerly. The dead old paternity lived there, absorbing him, and for the first time people began to speak specifically of the dawning work of evil in his goatish face. He would sometimes mutter an unfamiliar jargon, and chant in Bedouism which chilled the listener with a sense of unexplainable terror. The aversion displayed toward him by dogs had now become a matter of wide remark, and he was obliged to carry a pistol in order to traverse the countryside in safety. His occasional use as a weapon did not enhance his popularity among the honors of canine guardians. The few colours of the house would often find Lavinia alone on the ground floor, while odd cries and footsteps resounded in the boarded-up second story. She would never tell what her father and the boy were doing up there. Though once she turned pale and displayed an abnormal degree of fear. On a jig-coast fish peddler tried the lock leading to the stairway. That peddler told the store lounger at Dunwich village that he thought he heard a horse stamping on that floor above. The loungers reflected, thinking of the doorway and runway, and of the cattle that those whispered disappeared. Then they shuddered as they recalled tales of old Watley's youth, and of the strange scenes that are called out to the earth from the fork sacrificed at the proper time to certain heathen gods. It had, with some time, been noticed that dogs had begun to hate and fear the whole Watley place as violently as they hated and feared young Wilbur personally. Not the drink body. Bourbon. In 1917, the war came, and Squire Sawyer Watley, the chairman of the local draft board, had hard work finding a quota of young Dunwich men, fit even to be sent to a development camp. The government, alarmed at such signs of wholesale regional decadence, sent several officers and medical experts to investigate, conducting the survey which New England newspaper The Reader misstold call. It was the publicity attending youth investigation which set reporters on attack the Wadleys, and caused the Boston Globe and Acom Advertiser to print flamboyant Sunday stories of young Robert precociousness. Old Wallaby's black magic, the shells of strange books, the sealed second story of the ancient farmhouse, and the weirdness of the whole region and its hill noises. Wilbur was 4.5 then, and looked like a lad of 15. His lips and cheeks were fuzzy with a coarse dark brown, and his voice had begun to break. Old Sawyer went out to the vitally place with full sets of reporters and cameramen, and called their attention to the queer stench which now seemed to trickle down from the field upper speaking. It was, he said, exactly like a smell he had found in the tool shed abandoned when the house was finally repaired. And was the faint odors which he sometimes thought he caught near the stone circle from the mountain. Dunwich folk read the stories when they appeared and grinned over the obvious mistakes. They wondered, too, why the writer made so much of the fact that old Wadley always paid for his cattle in gold pieces of extremely ancient date. The Wadleys had received their visitors with ill-concealed distaste, so they did not dare court for their publicity by a violent resistance or refusal to talk. This is turning out to be a real boogie. I did not expect I'd get this far. I expected more to pale brass than this to be over. Raw. Okay. Not good. Oh. And Lady Cars, no pot. No, well. No, 2 hours. No. That is good. Yeah, I'll be. Forget to the end of the story. I'm calling a stream there. For a decade, the annual Wadleys sank invisibly into the general life of a morbid community, used to their queer ways and hardened it to their May Eve and All Hallows Ologies. Twice a year they would light fire on the top of Sentinel Hill, at which time the mountain rumbling but gooey curve was greater and greater violence. Well, it all season, it was strange and pretentious doing to tell up my farmhouse. In the course of time, Cowles professed to hear sounds in the sealed upper story, even when all the family were downstairs. They wondered how swiftly or how lingeringly a cow or pua was usually sacrificed. There was talk of a complaint to the Society for the Preservation of Cruelty, for the prevention of cruelty to animals. But nothing ever came of it. Then, Dunwich folk are never anxious to call the outside world attention to themselves. But that in 23, when Wilbur was a boy of 10, whose mind, voice, stature, and bitter faith gave all the impressions of maturity. A second great siege of carpentry put on at the old house. It was all inside the sealed upper part, and from bits of discarded lumber, people computed their use, and his grandfather had knocked out all the partitions, and even removed the attic floor, leaving only one vast open void between the ground story and the peaked roof. They had torn down the great central chimney, too, and fitted the rusty range with a flimsy outside tin stovepipe. In the spring after this event, old Wadley noticed the growing number of whippoorwills that had come out of Cold Spring Glen to chirp under his window at night. He seemed to regard circumstance as one of great significance, and told the lounger at Osborne's that he thought his time had almost come. A whistle just in tune with my reason now," he said. "I guess they are getting ready to catch my soul. They know it, they're going about and done calculate to miss it. You'll know, boys, after I'm gone, whether they get me or not. If they do, they'll keep a thing in them laughing to break a day. If they done, they'll kinda quiet down like. I expect them and fools they hunts for have some pretty tough tussles sometimes." All last night, 1924, Mr. Houghton of Aylesbury was hastily summoned by Wilbur Watterly, who had lashed his one remaining horse through the darkness and telephoned from Osborne's in the village. He found old Bodily in a rare state, the cardiac action instead sultruous breathing that told of an end is not far off. His shapeless albino daughter and oddly bearded grandson stood by the bedside, whilst from the vacant abyss overhead there came a disquieting suggestion of rheumatic surging or lapping, as of the waves on some level beach. The doctor, though, was chiefly disturbed by the chattering night birds outside. A seemingly limitless legion of whippoorwills that cried their endless message in repetitions, harmed diabolically to the wheezing gasp of the dying man. It was uncanny and unnatural. Too much, thought Mr. Houghton, as the whole village had entered so reluctantly in response to the urgent call. Toward 1 o'clock, old Watterly gained consciousness and interrupted his weaving to choke out a few words. "More space, Willie, more space soon. Duke grows, and that grows faster. It'll be ready to serve you soon, boy. Open up the gate to Yog Felthos, and with a chant that you'll find on page 751 and the complete edition, and then put a match to the prison. Fire from us can't burn it now. Now." He was obviously quite mad. After a pause, during which the flock of whippoorwills outside adjusted their quiet to the altered tempo, while some indications of the strange hill noises came from afar off, he had him in another sentence or two. "Feed it wigla, Willie, and mind the quantity, but don't let it grow too fat for the place, for if it best quarters and gets out before you opens to duck the thoth, it's all over and no use. Only them from beyond can make you multiply 'em up. Only then the old ones as wants to come back." But speech gave way to gasps again, and Lavinia screamed at the way the whippoorwills followed the change. We were the same for more than an hour, when the final throaty rattle came. Mr. Dowie drew shrunken lids over the glazing grey eyes. The tumult of birds seemed imperceptibly to silence. Lavinia sobbed, but Wilbur only chuckled while the hill noises rumbled faintly. "They didn't get here," he muttered in his heavy brass voice. Wilbur was by this time a scholar of really tremendous erudition in his one-sided way, was quietly known by correspondents to many librarians in distant places, where rare and forbidden books of old days are kept. He was more and more hated and dreaded around Dunwich because of certain useful disappearances, which suspicion laid vaguely at his door. But was always able to ference inquiry for fear also use of that fund of old-time gold, which, still, as in his grandfather's time, went forth regularly and increasingly for kettling. He was now tremendously mature of aspect, and his height, having reached the normal adult limit, seemed inclined to wax beyond that figure. In 1925, when a scholarly correspondent from Miskatonic University called upon him one day, and departed pale and puzzled, he was fully 6 3/4 feet tall. 49%. Through all the years, Wilbur had treated his half-deformed albino mother as a growing contempt, finally forbidding her to go to the hill for ceremony on May Eve and Hallowmas. And in 1926, the poor creature complained to Mammy Bishop of being afraid of him. There's more about him than knows than I can tell you, Mammy, you good. And nowadays, there's more nor what I know myself. I vow for God, I don't know what he wants, nor what he's trying to do. That Halloween, the hill noises sounded louder than ever, and fire burning them Sentinel Hill, as usual. But people paid more attention to the rhythmical screaming of vast flocks of unnaturally blatant whippoorwill, which seemed to be assembled near the uninvited Waterley farmhouse. After midnight, their shrill notes burst into a kind of pandemonic cachinnation, which filled all the countryside, and not until dawn did they finally quiet down. Then they vanished, hurrying southward, where they were fully a month overdue. What this meant, no one could quite be certain until later. None of the country folk seemed to have died before Lavinia Wesley, the twitted albino, was never seen again. It's not good. In the summer of 1907, Wilbur repaired 2 sheds in the farmyard and began moving his Brooks and Fifth out to them. Then after, Bill Sawyer told the loungers at Offron that more carpentry was going on in the Waverley farmhouse. Wilbur was closing all the doors and windows on the valve floor, and seemed to be taking up auditions, as he and his grandfather had done upstairs 4 years before. He was living in one of the sheds, and Sawyer sat. He seemed unusually worried and tremulous. People generally suspected of him of knowing something about his mother's disappearance. A few ever approached his neighbor now. His height had into more than 7 feet, and showed no sign of ceasing its development. The following winter brought an event no less strange than Wilbur's first trip outside the Dunwich region. Correspondence was a Wadden library at Harvard, a Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris, the British Museum, the University of Buenos Aires, and the Library of Miskatonic University of Arkham, and failed to get him the loan of a book he desperately wanted. So at length he did out in person, shabby, dirty, bearded, and uncouth dialect, to consult the copy at Miskatonic, which was the nearest to him geographically. Almost 8 feet tall and carrying a cheap new valise from Osborne's general store, this dark and goatless gargoyle appeared one day in Arkham, and with an dreaded volume kept in the lock and key at the college library. The hideous Necronomicon, the mad Arab Abdul al-Hawadad, in Olaf Wormius's Latin version, as printed in Spain in the 17th century. He had never seen a city before, but had no thought save to find his way to the university ground, where, indeed, he passed heedlessly by the great white-fanged watchdog. That bark was unnatural fury and enmity, and tugged frantically at its stout chain. How many pages left? Kill us, you. Let's cover it. Okay. Wilbur had within the priceless but imperfect copy of Dr. D, the English version, which his grandfather had bequeathed him. And upon receiving access to the Latin copy, he at once began to collate the 2 texts, with the aim of discovering a certain passage, which would have come on 751st page to the undefective volume. This much he could not differently refrain from telling the librarian, the same erudite Henley Armitage, A.M. Miskatonic, Ph.D., Princeton, Benue D. Hart, Johns Hopkins, who had once called her at the fire, and who now politely plied him with questions. He was looking, he had to admit, for a kind of formula or indentation containing the frightful name Gyog Thathathath. Thus, and it puzzled him to find discrepancies, duplications, and ambiguities made the matter of determination far from easy. As he copied the formulas each show, he found that showed that the outlets but involuntarily over his shoulder at the open pages. The left hand, one of which, in the Latin version, contained such monstrous threats to the peace and authority of the world. Nor that to be sought, while the text, his artist mentally translated it, that man of either the oldest or the last of earth's masters, or that the common bulk of life and substance walks alone. The old ones were, the old ones are, and the old ones shall be. Not in the spaces we know, but between them. We walk serene and primal, undimensioned, and to us unseen. Yog-Sothoth knows the gate. Yog-Sothoth is the gate. Yog-Sothoth is the key and guardian of the gate. Past, present, future, all are one in Yog-Sothoth. He knows that the old ones broke through of old, no more they shall break through again. He knows where they have trod as fields, and where they still tread them, and why no one can behold them as they tread. By the smell can men sometimes know them near, but of the semblance, ill men know them only in the features of those they have begotten of mankind, and of those as their many thoughts, differing in likeness from man's truest ill one, to that shape without sight of substance which is them. They walk unseen and foul and lonely places where the words have been spoken, and the light held true at the seasons. The wind givers with their voices, and the earth mutters with their consciousness. They bend the forest and crush the city, yet may not forest nor city behold the hand that smite. Catus in the cold waste hath known them. And what man knows Catus? The eye dividends the cells, the silken isle for the ocean pulls stone fry, and the seal is engraved. But who has seen the deep Lozen city with a sealed tower long garland with seaweed and barnacles? Great Cthulhu, the Cuthan, nor can he spy them only dimly. Yeah, Jub Negros, with the foulness shall ye know them, the hand of that Yoswilpa, did ye see them not, and the habitation is even one with your guarded threshold. Now Yog-Sothoth has the key to the gate, whereby the spheres meet. Man rules now where they ruled once. They shall soon rule where man rules now. After summer and after winter summer. They wait patient and potent, but here shall they reign again. 56% hope as she went up. That's not good. Mr. Armitage, associating what he was reading with what he had heard of Dunwich and its pudding balances, and of Wilbur Wesley and his dim, hideous hour that stretched from dubious fears to a cloud of probable matricide, felt a wave of fright, as tangible as the trot of the two's cold cleanliness. The bent, gorgeous giant before him emblazed the spawn of another planet or dimension. Lice, dumpsy only partly of mankind, are linked to black gulfs of essence and entity that stretch like Titan phantasms beyond all sphere of force and matter. space and time. Presently, Wilbur raised his head and began speaking in a strange, resonant fashion, which hinted at down-producing organ. I might feel gone of mankind's. Mr. Armitage, he said, I calculate I've got to take that book home. They singed in it I've got to try under certain conditions that I can get here, and I'd be a more to fin to let the red tape rule hold me up. Let me take it along, sir, and I'll swear there won't nobody know the difference. I don't need to tell you I'll take good care of it. One me place I put this dear coffee, this dear coffee in the shape it is. He stopped as he saw firm denial on the librarian's face, and his arm goddess features grew crafty. Armitage, half ready to tell him he might make a copy of what parts he needed, that suddenly as the possible consequences, and checked himself. There was too much responsibility in giving such a being the key to such blasphemous outer spheres. Hardly thought how things stood, and tried to answer lightly. Well, all right, if you feel that way about it. Eddie Hubbard won't be so fussy as you be. Without the Ingmar, he rose and strode out of the building, stooping at each doorway. Armitage hears the savage yelping of the great watchdog and studied Wedley's gorilla-like note as he crossed the bit of campus visible from the window. He thought of the wild tales he had heard and recalled the old Sunday stories in the advertiser. These things, the lore he had picked up from Dunwich rustics and villagers during his one visit there. Things not of Earth, but at least not of tridimensional Earth. Rust-footed in horrible through New England's glens, and brooded obscenely on the mountain-tops. Of this he had long felt certain. Now he seemed to sense the close presence as an terrible part of the intruding horror, and to glimpse a hellish advance in the black dominion of the ancient and once passive night-gear. He locked away the Necronomicon with a shudder of disgust. Of the room still reeks in an unholy and unidentifiable stench. At the foulness shall ye know them, he wadded. Yes, the odor was the same as that which had sickened him at Watley farmhouse less than 3 years before. He saw the Wilbur, gorgeous and ominous, once again, and laughed mockingly at the village schoolmaster's disadvantage. And bleeding, Armitage muttered, half aloud to himself. Great God, what simpleton. Choose them us in McKennan's great God pan, and they'll think it a common Dunwich scandal. But what thing, what cousin shape was influenced on or off to three-dimensional Earth? Wilbur Watley's father. Born on Candlemas, I much after May Eve of 1912, and the talk about the queer earth noise has reached clear to Alka. Well walked down the mountain that May night. What rude horror fastened itself on the world in half-human flesh and blood. During the ensuing weeks, Dr. Armitage set about to collect all possible data on Wilbur Watley, the foremost presences around Dunwich. He got in communication with Dr. Shuton of Aylesbury, who had attended old Watley in his last illness, and found much to ponder over in the grandfather's last words escorted by the physician. A visit to Dunwich village failed to bring out much that was new, but a full survey of the Necronomicon, in those parts which Wilbur had sought so avidly, seemed to supply new and terrible clues to the nature, methods, and desires of the strange evil though vaguely threatening the planet. Taught for several students of archaic law in Boston, and letters to many others elsewhere, gave Mucklow amazement, which passed slowly through varied degrees of alarm to a state of really acute spiritual fear. As the summer drew on the too I, he thought dimly that something ought to be done in the living terrors of the upper Miskatonic Valley, and about the monstrous being not the human will of Wilbur Watterly. The Dunwich War itself came between Lamass and the equinox in 1928, and Dr. Armitage was among those who witnessed its monstrous prologue. He had heard, meanwhile, of Watterly's grotesque trip to Cambridge, and with frantic efforts to borrow or copy from the Necronomicon at the Washington Library. Though the efforts had been in vain, since Armitage had issued warnings of the keenest sympathy to all librarians having charge of the dreaded volume. Wilbur had been shockingly nervous at Cambridge, anxious for the threat, yet always equally anxious to get home again, and if he feared the results of being away long. Finally, onto an hour 44 minutes. And we've been live for seriously. That's not good. Oh, but really not good. Early in August, the half-expected outcome developed, and in small hours, the 3rd, Little Armitage was awakened suddenly by the wild, fierce cries of the savage watchdog on the college campus. Deep and terrible, the snarling, half-mad growls and barks continued, always the melting volume, but with hideously significant pauses. Then there rang out a scream from a wholly different throat. Such a scream had roused for half his sleeper of Arkham, and haunted the dream ever afterward. Such a scream as could come from no being born of earth, or wholly of earth. Armitage, hastening into some clothing, and rushing across the street and lawn to the college building, saw that others were ahead of him, and heard the echoes of a burglar alarm still shrilling from the library. An open window shewed black and gaping in the moonlight. What had come had indeed completed its entrance, for the barking and screaming, now fast fading into a mix of low growling and moaning, proceeded unmistakably from within. Some instinct warned Armitage that what was taking place was not a thing for unfortified eyes to see. So he brushed back the crowd with authority. He unlocked the vestibule door. Among the others, he saw Professor Warren Weiss, that of Francis Morgan, men to whom he had told some of his conjectures and misgivings, and those too he motioned to accompany him inside. The inward sounds, a simple, watchful, groaning whine from the dog, had this time quite subsided. But Armitage now perceived with a certain start that a loud chorus of whippoorwill from endless reverie commenced a damnably rhythmical piping, as if in unison, the last breaths of the dying man. The building was full of a frightful stench, which Dr. Armitage knew too well. The three men rushed across the hall to the small genealogical reading room, whence the low whining came. For a second, nobody dared to turn on the light, and Armitage summoned up his courage and snapped the switch. One of the three, it is not certain which, shrieked aloud at what sprawled before them. Among disordered tables and overturned chairs, Professor Rice declared that he wholly lost consciousness for an instant, though he did not stumble or fall. The scene that lay half bent on its side in the fruited poles of greenish yellow ichor and terry stickiness was almost 9 feet tall, and the dog had turned off all the clothing and some of the skin. It was not quite dead, but twitched silently and spasmodically, while chest heaved in monstrous unison, some mad piping with the expectant river wolves outside. Bits of shooter there and fragments of apparel scattered about the room, and just inside the window, an empty canvas sat lay where it had evidently been thrown. Near the central desk, a revolver had fallen, a dented but undischarged cartridge. They explained why it had not been fired. The thing itself, however, crowded out all other images of the time. It would be trite and not wholly accurate to say that no human pen could describe it. Well, one may probably say that it could not be vividly visualized by anyone whose ideas, aspect, and contour, the too closely bound up the common forms of this planet, have the three known dimensions. It was partly human, beyond a doubt, the very man-like hands and head, and the girlish, chinless face had the stamp of the water leaf upon it. For the torso and lower parts of the body were territoriologically fabulous, so that only generous clothing could ever have enabled it to walk on earth unchallenged or uneradicated. Above the waist it was semi-anthropomorphic, till its chest, with the dove's winged paws still resting watchfully, had the leathery, reticulated hide of a crocodile or alligator. The back was piebald, this yellow on black, and dimly suggested this walrus covering with threatened snakes. Below the waist, dull, with the worst, for here all human resemblance left off and the sheer fantasy began. The skin was thickly covered with coarse black fur, and from the abdomen a score of long greenish-gray tentacles, with red, ducking mouths, protruded limply. The arrangement was odd, and seemed to follow the symmetries of some cosmic geometry, unknown to Earth for the full system. On each of the hips, deep in the kind of pinkish cylinder orbit, was what appeared to be a rudimentary eye, whilst the move of the tail there depended a kind of trunk or feeder, with purple annular markings. And was many evidences of being an undeveloped mouth or throat. The limbs, save for the black fur, roughly resembled the hind legs of prehistoric this giant saurian. Temir and wedgy-baned hads that were neither hooves nor claws. When the thing breathed, its scales and tentacles rhythmically changed color, as this from some circulatory cause, normal to the non-human side of its ancestry. The tentacles were observable as a deepening of the greenish tinge, while from the tail there was manifest the yellowish appearance, was alternated with a sickly greenish, grayish white in the spaces between the swivel rings. Of genuine blood there was none, only the muted greenish-yellow ichor which trickled along the painted floor, yet beyond the radius of the thickness, and left a curious discoloration behind it. As the presence of the three men seemed to well the dying thing, it began to mumble without turning or raising its head. Dr. Armitage made no written record of its mouthings, but asserts confidently that nothing in English was uttered. At first, the syllables defied all correlation with any speech of Earth. But toward the left, there came some disjointed fragments, evidently taken from the Necronomicon, that monstrous blasphemy, in quest of which the thing had perished. The fragments, them just recalled them, ran something like, a guide, Nakal Yaga, Dam Shagan, Yaha Yag Shothas, Yag Vithas. They trailed off into nothingness. As the whippoorwill shrieked in rhythmical crescendos of unholy anticipation. Then came a halt. Then came a halt and the gasping. A dog raised its head in a wan. The with lump through Bria's howl. The change came over the yellow, gorgeous face of the prostrate sea, and the great black eyes fell appallingly. Outside the window, the shrilling of the whippoorwills had suddenly ceased, and above the murmurs of the gathering crowd became a sound of a panic-struck growing and fluttering. Against the moon, vast clouds of feathery watchers rose and raced from sight, frantic at that which they had thought for prey. All at once, dog started up abruptly, gave a frightened bark, and leapt nervously out of the window by which it had entered. A cry rose from the crowd, and Dr. Amches shouted to the men outside that no one must be admitted till the police or medical examiner came. He was thankful that the windows were just too high to permit of peering in, and threw the dark curtains carefully down over each one. By this time, 2 policemen had arrived, and Dr. Morgan, seeing them in the vestibule, was urging them for their own sakes to postpone entrance into this. The pole arm of the actual Dunwich horror may have gone through by bewildered officials, as no more details were duly kept for us in public, and men were sent to Dunwich in hurry to book up property and notify any who might be late Wilbur Wadley. Is on the countryside in great agitation, both because of the growing rumbling round hills, and because of the unwanted stench and the thirsty, laughing sounds which came increasingly from the great empty shell formed by Wadley's boarded-up farmhouse. El Zoya, who tended the horse and cattle during Wilbur's absence, had developed a woefully acute case of nerve. The officials devised excuses not to enter the noisome border place, and were glad to confine the survey of the decadence of the deceased living quarters, the newly mended sheds, to a single visit. They fired a ponderous report at the courthouse in Aylesbury, and litigations concerning airship are said to be still in progress among the innumerable Watleys, decayed and undecayed of the upper Miskatonic Valley. An almost indeterminable manuscript and strange characters written in a huge ledger and a judged the sort of diary, with the spacing and variations in ink and penmanship, presented a baffling puzzle to those who found it on the old bureau which served as its owner's desk. After a week of debate, we were sent to Miskatonic University, together with a collection of strange books. Impossible. Not even. But even though Beth linked to and saw it was not likely to be unwhittled with ease. No trace gold, with which an old Valley always paid to debts, has yet been discovered. It was in the dark of September night as the horror broke loose. The hill noises had been very pronounced during the evening, and dogs barked frantically all night. Illy rises on the 10th, most a peculiar stench in the air. About 7 o'clock, Lucy Brown, the head boy at Troy Coys, between Cold Spring Glen and the village, rushed frenziedly back from its morning trek to the 10-acre to 10-acre meadow, the cows. He was almost convulsed with fright as they stumbled into the kitchen, and into the yard outside. The no less frightened herd were pawing and lowing pitifully. Henning followed the boy back in the panic that shared him. Between gaff, Loser tried to stammer out his tale to Miss Coy. Of that, the word beyond the glen, Miss Coy. There's something been there. It smelled like thunder, and all the push of the noble tree pushed back in the lodge like a house been moved on that one of it. And that ain't the worst, neither. There's plenty to the road and scoy, great down plinths as big as barrel heads, often down deep like an elephant had been lawn. All I did a single more nor foul feet, nor 4 feet can make. Only they'll sight more nor foul 4 feet can make. I let there one with 2 or 4 I run out, and I see every one was covered with lines spun out from one place, as if they dig palm leaf fans. Twit or 3 times as big as any dyer's head had been pounded down into the road, and the smell was awful, like it was either around the withered Wenley, the old house. Here, he faltered, and seemed to shiver afresh was the fright that had sent him flying home. Miss Cooley, unable to extract more information, began telephoning the neighbors, thus starting on the grounds the overture panic that heralded the major terrors. With Scott Sally Sawyer, housekeeper at Sis Bishop's, the nearest place to Wadley's, it became her turn to listen instead of transmit. With Sally's boy Chauncey, who slept poorly, had been up on the hill toward Wadley's, and had dashed back in terror at the one look at the place, and at the pasturage where Mr. Bishop's cow had been left out all night. Yes, Miss Goy, came Sally's tremulous voice over the party wire. Chauncey, it just came back a postin', and couldn't half talk for being scout. He says old Wanley's house though blowed up, with the timbers scattered round like there'd been dynamite inside. Only the bottom floor ain't though. But it's all covered with the kind of tile-like stuff that smelled awful and dripped down off at the edges into the ground, while the side timber is blown away. And they's awful kingdoms in the yard, too. Maitland mites bigger around than Hogshead, and all sticky with stuff like is on their blowed-up house. Chauncey, he says, they lead off into the meadows. Why the great swash wider and branched matted down, and all the stone walls tumbled every which way wherever it goes. And he says he, Miss Coy, as how he sat to look for this cow, frightened as he was, and he found him in the upper pasture nigh the devil's hot yard in awful shape. Half of 'em clean gone, and nip half of them, and that's left, he suffered most dry of blood. With sores on 'em like they'd been on Webley's cattle, ever think let Benny's black brat born. Says he's gone about now to look at 'em, though all Valley one care to get very nigh withered Wadley's Chancy. Didn't look careful to see why the big matter down splash led out it and left a orange. But he said that hunted toward the Glenwood to the village. I tell ya, Miss Cooley, there's something abroad as hadn't oughter be abroad, and I, for one, think that Black Wilbur Wadley has gone to bad Ian to just out. He's at the bottom of the breeding of it. He'll want all human hisself. I say to everybody, I think he and old Wadley must be a raised something in there. Must have raised something in there, nailed up hell, as ain't even so human as he was. These always been unseen things around Dunwich, living things, of ain't human and ain't good for human folks. The ground was a darkin' last night, and toward morning Chancy as he heard the whippoorwill call so loud in Cold Spring Glen he couldn't sleep none. Then he thought he heard another faint like sound over towards where the Radleys, the kind of ripper no tearing a wood like some big box or crate was being opened for. What with this and that, and he didn't get sleep at all time up, and no sooner was he up this morning, but he's got to go over to Wadley's and see what's the matter. You see enough, I tell you, Miss Coy. This don't mean no good, and I think as all the men folk ought to get up a party and do something. I know something's awful about it, and feel my time is nigh, though only God knows just what it is. Do you lucid take account of where them big tracks lead to? No. Well, Miss Coy, as they was on the glen, wood this side of the glen, and ain't go to your house yet, I calculate they must go on the glen itself. They would do that. I always says Colonel Springland ain't no healthier nor decent place. The whippoorwill, them fireflies there never did act like they was creators of God and very, and they them as says your kitten hears brain sing to us question, and a talking and in the air down. They'll after you stand in the right place that between the fall and bear's den. By that noon, fully 3/4 of the men and boys of Dunwich were trooping of the hit rows and meadows between the new-made, widely ruined, and Cold Spring Glen, examining in horror the vast monstrous prints, main bishop cattle, the strange, noisome work of the farmhouse, and the bruised, marrow vegetation of the field from roadside. Whatever had burst loose upon the world had assuredly gotten on to the great sinister ravine, for all the trees in the banks were bent and broken, and the great avenue had been gouged in the precipice hanging underbrush, and with its ill health, marked by an avalanche, had slid down through the cold growth of the almost vertical slope. From below no sound came, but only a distant, undefinable fruit, and it's not who wanted it. At that, the men preferred to stay on the edge and argue, rather than descend and bear the unknown's like roping horror in its lair. 3 dogs that were with the party had barked furiously at first, but seemed cowed and reluctant when near the glen. Someone telephoned the news to the Aylesbury Transcript, and the editor, accustomed to wild tales from Dunwich, did no more than concoct a humorous paragraph about it, an item soon afterward reproduced by the Association Press. That night, everyone went home, and every house and barn was barricaded as stoutly as possible. Needless to say, no cattle were allowed to remain in open pasture, and about 2 in the morning, a frightful stench and the savage barking of the dog of the White household at Elmer cried of the eastern edge of Cold Spring Glen, and all agreed that they could hear a muffled swishing or laughing sound from somewhere outside. Mrs. Fry proposed telephoning the neighbors, and Elmer was about to agree when a noise as splintering wood burst in upon their deliberations. It came, apparently, from the barn, but was quickly followed by hideous screaming as stamping amongst cattle. The dog fed and crouched close to the near fear-numbed family. Briar lit a cat, a lantern was of habit, that knew it would be best to go out into the black farmyard. Children and the womenfolk whimpered, kept from screaming by some obscure vestigial instinct of defense. This called them the last depended on silence. At last, the noise of the cattle subsided to a pitiful moaning, and a great snapping, gushing, and clapping ensued. The Fries, huddled together in the sitting room, did not dare to move until the last echoes died away far down in Cold Spring Glen. Then, amidst the dismal moans from a stable and the demonic piping of late whippoorwills in the glen, Selina Fry tottered to the telephone and spread what news she could of the second phase of the horror. The next day, all the countryside was in a panic, and cowed, uncommunicative group came and went with a fiendish thing it occurred. Two tightened wasps in destruction stretched from a glen to the wary farmyard, miles to his prints covered with bare patches of ground. On one side of the old rent barn had completely caved in. With the cattle, only a quarter could be found and identified. Some of these were in curious fragments, and all that fires had to be shot. Phil Sawyer suggested that help be asked from Aylesbury Arkham, but others maintained it would be of no use. Old Zebulon Wadley, of a branch that hovered about halfway between soundness and decadent, made darkly wild suggestions about rites that ought to be practiced on the hilltops. He came of a line where tradition runs broad, and his memories of chanting in the great stone circles were not altogether connected with Wilbur and his grandfather. Darkness fell upon a strict side, too past night for real defense. In a few cases, closely related families were band together and watched in the gloom under one roof. But, in general, there was only a repetition of the barricading of the night before. A futile, ineffective gesture of loading muskets and setting pitchforks handway about. Nothing,
However, occurred with some hill noises. The day came.
There were many who hoped that the new horror had gone as swiftly as it had come. There were even bold souls who proposed an offensive expedition down into the glen, though they had not ventured to set an actual example to the still reluctant majority. When night came again, the barricading was repeated, though there was less huddling together of families. In the morning, both the Fry and the Seth Bishop households reported excitement among the dogs and vague sound these stenches from a fire, while earlier throwers noted with horror a fresh set of the monstrous tracks on the road skirting Sentinel Hill. As before, the sides of the low chute of bruising indicative of the blasphemous breed's stupendous bulk of the horror, whilst the conformation of the tracks into argue passage in two directions, as if the mobile mountain had come from Coldwood Glen and returned towards one the same path. At the base of the hill, a 30-foot swash of crushed shrubbery saplings led steeply upward, and the seekers grasped when they saw that even the most perpendicular places did not deflect the inexorable trail. Whatever the horror was, it could scale a sheer stony cliff of almost complete verticality, and as the investigators climbed around to the hill summit, a safer route, they saw that the trail ended, or rather, reversed, there. It was here that the Wadleys used to build their hellish fires and chant their hellish rituals by the table-like stone on May Eve and Hallowmas. Now that very stone formed the center of the vast face thrashed around by the mountainous horror, whilst upon its slightly concave surface the thick and fruitant deposit, with the same tarry stickiness observed on the floor of the ruined Wadley farmhouse, and the horror escaped. Men looked at one another and muttered. Then they looked down the hill. Apparently, the horror had descended by a route much the same as that of its ascent. To speculate was futile. Reason, logic, and normal ideas and motivations did confounded. Only old Zebulon was not with the group could have done justice to the situation, or suggested a plausible explanation. Thursday night began much like the others, but it ended less happily. The whippoorwills in the glen had screamed with such unusual persistence that many could not sleep, and about 3 a.m., all the party telephones rang tremulously. Those who took their receivers heard a fright man voice shriek out, "Help! Help! Oh my gosh!" and some said a crashing sound, followed the breaking off of the egg formation. It was nothing more. No one dared to do anything, and no one knew till morning whence the call came. Those who had heard it called everyone on the line, and found that only the Fries did not reply. A truce appeared an hour later, when a hastily assembled group of 5 men rushed out to the Fry place at the head of the glen. It was horrible, yet hardly a surprise. There were more wasps and monstrous wint, but there was no longer any house. Had it caved in like an eggshell, and amidst the ruins, nothing living or dead could be discovered. Only a stench and a tarry stickiness. The Elmer Fries had been erased when Dunwich. All day. Already in chapter 8. All while we're waiting for Elden Ring download. That is not good. Eat out of the L10. Okay. I'm gonna get a drink. Mother. Oh, okay. Where? 15 minutes to go. Okay. Now, but no while for my voice to, you back up. But we're to go again. In the meantime, a quieter yet even more spiritually poignant phase of the horror had been blackly unwinding itself. Behind the gross door, the shelf-lined woven album, a curious manuscript record or diary of Bobo Wackley, delivered to Miskatonic University for translation. It caused much worry and bafflement among the experts in languages both ancient and modern. The very alphabet, notwithstanding a general resemblance to the heavily shaded Arabic used in Mesopotamia, being utterly unknown to any available authority. Final conclusion as a linguist was that the text represented an artificial alphabet, giving the effect of a cipher, though none of the useful method in the cryptographic solutions into furnishing the clue. Even when applied in the basis of every tongue thread and mechanism we have used. The ancient books taken from Wadley's quarters, while thrillingly interesting and in several cases promising to open up new and tellable lines of research among philosophers and men of science, were of no assistance whatever in this matter. One of them, a heavy tome with an iron graph, was in another unknown alphabet. This one of a very different cast, and resembling Sanskrit, was anything else. The old nature was at length given wholly into the charge of Dr. Armitage, both because of his peculiar interest in the widely matter, and because of his wide linguistic learning and skill in the mystical formulae of antiquity in the Middle Ages. Armitage had an idea that the alphabet might be something esoterically used by certain forbidden cults which have come down from old times. and which have inherited many forms and traditions from the wizards of the Dacianic world. That question, however, did not deem vital, since it would be unnecessary to know the origin of the symbol, if, at least suspected, it were used to decipher in a modern language. It was his belief that, considering the great amount of text involved, the latter was scarcely of wished trouble of using another speech than his own, be perhaps in special formulae and incantations. Accordingly, he attacked the manuscript with the preliminary assumption that the bulk of it was in English. Under 10. Oh. That the answers knew from the repeated failures of his colleagues that the riddle was deep and complex one, that no simple mode of solution could merit even a trial. All through late August he fortified himself, the master of cryptography, drawing upon the fullest resources of his own library, awaiting night after night amidst the arcana, Twistemius's polygrapher, Guillaume Basque pour de furtive liberum notus, the Virginia Triptych to affairs, Balkner's Cryptomenesis, that affect death, and I read in Thick Ness's 18th century treatises, and such fairly modern authorities as Blair, von Martin, and Kleber's Cryptome Graphic. Interspersed his study of the books was a tax on the manuscript itself, and in time became convinced that he had to deal with one of Bill's deadliest and most ingenious of pictograms, which many separate lists of corresponding letters are arranged as a multiplication table, and the methods built up with arbitrary keywords, not only to the initiated. The older authorities seemed rather more helpful than newer ones. Now it is concluded that the code of the manuscript was one of great antiquity, no doubt handed down through a long line in the squat experimenters. Several times they seemed near daylight, only to be set back with some unforeseen obstacle. Then, as September approached, the clouds began to clear. Distant meadows, as used in some past manuscript, emerged definitely, unmistakably, and it became obvious that the text was indeed in English. Over the time, 7 remaining. Called for an hour and 33 wow. On the evening of September 2nd, the last major barrier gave way, and Dr. Armitage read for the first time a continuous passage of Wilbur Wadley's annals. It was in truth a diary, Dahl had sought, and it was couched in its style clearly chilling the mixed art of the erudition and general illiteracy of the strange being who wrote it. All was the first long passage that Armitage deciphered, an entry dated November 26, 1916. Grew tireless darling and discouraging. It was written, you remembered, by a child of 3 1/2 who looked like a lad of 12 or 13. Today lend the apple for the Sabbath, it ran, which did not like it being answerable from the hill, and not from the air. Now upstairs more ahead of me than I had thought it would be. And it is not like how much Esbray shot Ulan Putchin's collie Jack when he went to bite me, and Elan says he would kill me if he daft. I guess he won't. Grandfather kept me saying the dough formula last night, and I think I saw the inner city at two magnetic poles. I shall go to those poles from the east to it off, if I can't break through with a dough and formula when I commit it. They from the air told me at Sabbath that it will be years before I can clear off the earth, and I guess grandfather will be dead then, for I shall have to learn all the angle for the planes and all the formulas between ya and the nigga. Nyanga. NHHNGA. They from outside will help, where they cannot take body without human blood. That upstairs looks, it will have the light cast. I can that is a sees a little when I make the foolish fine or blow the powder even gassy at it. And is near life there may eve on the hill. The other face may wear off some. I wonder how I shall look when the earth is cleared and there are no earth beings on it. He that came with the Aklos the Bios said I may be transfigured, of a air being much of outside to work on. Morning found that the amateurs in cold sweat of terror, in a frenzy of wakeful concentration. He had not left the manuscript all night, but up at his table under the electric light, turning page after page with shaking hands as fast as he could decipher the cryptic text. He had nervously telephoned his wife he would not be home, and when she brought him a breakfast from the house, he scarcely disposed of a mouthful. All that day he went on. Now and then halted maddeningly at the reapplication of the complex key became necessary. Lunch and dinner were brought him, but he ate only the smallest fraction of either. Toward the middle of the next night he roused off in his chair, but soon woke out of the tangle of nightmares, almost as hideous that truths and menaces to man's existence that he had uncovered. On the morning of December 4th, Professor Rice and Dr. Morgan insisted on seeing him for a while, and departed trembling and ashen gray. That evening he went to bed, but slept only fitfully. Wednesday, the next day, he was back at the manuscript, and began to take copious notes both from the current section, from those he had already deciphered. In the small hours of that night, he slept a little in an easy chair in his office. I was at the manuscript again before dawn. Some time before noon, his physician, Dr. Heltwell, called to see him, and insisted that she feast what. He refused, intimating that it was of the most vital importance for him to complete a reading of the diary, and promising an explanation in due course of time. That evening, just as twilight fell, he finished the terrible perusal and sank back exhausted. His wife, bringing his dinner, found him in a half-comatose state. But he was conscious enough to warn her off the sharp cry when he saw her eyes wandered towards the note he had taken. Weakly writhing, gathered up the scribbled papers and filled them all in a great envelope, which he immediately placed in his inside coat pocket. He had sufficient strength to get home, but it was so clearly in need of medical aid that Dr. Hartwell was summoned at once. As the doctor put him to bed, could only mutter over and over again, "But what in God's name can we do?" "4 minutes, come on." Oh, no. Gotta see if they're still up. We got 2 other people just waiting on me, so. I don't know if they're still up for it. Uh, oh. Final couple points. Oh, okay. 2 minutes. Well, okay. Uh, That's enough rough craft for today. Then the Danvers I don't want to join now that's too late. It's not much of an Elven wing for him, was it? Okay, we got one buzzer still up for it. Okay. And he's the Twelve. He's the one that's actually gotten into the DLC at this point, so. Hopefully, fingers crossed. 12 fingers crossed, he might. Now, I did not have a fingers crossed emote. Okay. Bad. Well, okay. What do you want? Okay. So we got one fun still playing. Okay. There. So one of them died off. Well, died off, they got off, they. Yeah. Okay, he definitely helped for Tuesday, which should be doable. Okay. And don't tell me his Dalton will date forever. Ha. Okay. Okay, that's not fair. Okay, let's first reading the book while it multi. That I would just slept, for it was probably delirious the next day. He made no explanations to how well, and in his calmer moment, spoke of the imperative need of a long conference with Rice and Morgan, including frantic appeals that something in the boarded up farmhouse be destroyed. No frantic references to some plan for the extirpation of the entire human race. dull, animal, and visible way from Earth by some terrible elder race of beings from another dimension. It was felt that the world was in danger, and the other things wished to strip it and drag it away from the solar system, of cosmos of matter, to some other plane, phase of entity from which it had once fallen. Bing Gel, bajillions of aeons ago. Those are times you would call for the gridded Necronomicon and the damning Holyactra from Regiment, in which he seemed hopeful of finding them formulas to check the pill he conjured up. Okay, chill. That picked up from John's doll. But that will fix it. It's a big game. Oh, okay. Now it's working. No, okay. 4 minutes remain left. Good. Stop them! Stop them! He would shout. Those bodily them meant to let them in, and the worst of all is left. To Weiss and Morgan, we must do something. The blind business, but I know how to make the powder. It hasn't been fed since the 2nd of August, when Wilbur came here to his death, and at that rate. But Armitage had a sound physique despite its 73 years, and had slept off his disorder that night without developing any real fever. He woke late Friday, clear of head, though Silva was a non-fear and tremendous sense of responsibility. Sunday afternoon he felt able to go to the library and summon Rice and Morgan for a conference. And the rest of that day and evening, the few men tortured their brains in the wildest speculation of the most desperate debate. Strange and terrible books would run voluminously from the stacked shelves and from secure places of storage, and diagrams of formula were copied with feverish haste and in bewildering abundance of skepticism there was none. Also he had seen the body of Wilbur Whately that lay on the floor in a room of that very building. Then after that, not one of them could feel even slightly inclined to treat diary as a madman's raving. 21 hours! Whoa! Three days! Whoa! 4 days! I am checking the... Okay, so we should have space. 2 months! With money. 4 months. That's not good. 10 months. Greater than a year? This is not good. Not good at all. Yeah, around the game card of printing up. Not good, I think. Only that earlier. Need to stall and get it to work. Will that work? Asked Dawn, have a nice death. Okay, that's not very easy. This takes like 3 seconds to download. Ah. Okay. Okay. Did that do it? What after? Okay. Now come see. Haunt of issue. Bam. Still. Will it want? Think is plus. Okay, no found. So, well, geez. My God, to the ritual camel. Yeah, even. Now, game, must make sure we get the right character. There we go. We'll make sure we have the light password and did that in. So, multiplayer. So, we want uppercase G. There. Oh, about 5 attempts. So we're one at Del 27. Okay, is it talk to him? Guinness Dick.
The stars have aligned. The festival is nigh. The festival. Before we begin,
Okay.
allow me to paint you the full picture. But now, we must.
Okay. So. We want the lantern, and we want on these. No, shouldn't here. So, we will see one of the signs down there. Okay. Fingers crossed. Okay. Okay. So, we are waiting at the summoning pool. Okay. So. Yes. Have people walking off today. Okay. We're waiting around until the sun decides. Thegeus shows up. Okay. We'll find out whether it what. So. Inventory. Do I have bow to L? Or L and roll? Okay, freezing great. Okay. So, equipment. Found it. What else do we have? We don't use any of those millions because, well, yeah, they'll get lost. So endeavor. Okay, so we're looking quick. Here we go. So. Oh no. Aha, there we go. Okay, man. Let me know when you're ready. There. Okay. So, when you dodge, okay. So, he's going up. Okay. Uh, so, summon. Okay. So, we are summoning these guys. Might. Okay. Okay. So, there's some sign over there. So, there we go. Ah. Okay. So, what we is doing surprisingly good. Okay. So, some sign over here. The finger maiden. Okay. So, you all coming out over here. We got. What then? Okay. So he's arrived. Yep, there we go. So, we want. Oh no. Mulgus, there it goes. Okay, so we want Queen Horde Tromba summon signal. Okay, but that. Okay. Okay, now it's done. Okay. So, wait. Yeah, we got you coming along. Keep coming along. Okay, now. There. Okay, great. Okay. I want to at least do 1 point of damage. Okay, so we need to find summon signals. It'll do. Okay. Okay. No. I need her to thank yous. Hold still. Okay. Okay. What is a wet map? Okay. Okay. Don't you find a set of grace? Is there one nearby? But I can't teleport. What do I do? Okay. But now I'm stuck on the island. I got a lot of wood, so I don't want to die. So, broke it up. Okay. Oh. All of them for this light.
What a
Thank you.
sick way to fight, eh, mate? The glory of the clash is shared by Radahn and you, and then a falling star right before our eyes. I can't fathom how Radahn was holding back something of that scale. He was a living legend, if ever I saw one. Well, it's time I left. The wheel of fate has been set into motion. If it's on the cards, I'd be glad to meet again.
What do
are
you
a
again?
fine warrior. If it's on the cards, I'd be...
Okay. How's it going? Oh. Let's try and get myself across the lake. Well, let's get the access to the lake. And then I'll just make it off stream time. Okay, don't fall into the pit. Okay. Okay, so
A
here we go.
tarnished here.
You're right.
Thou must have some business in mind to come all this way, though I have no memory of inking thee an invitation. No reason in particular thou
Not yet.
claimest. Intriguing. Then mayhaps fate hath steered thee to this encounter. Wilt thou enter into my service? I am the witch Rani. I stole death long ago, and search now for the dark path, that I might one day upend the whole of it, and rid the world of all that came before. Well, has that roused thy interest? I see. A choice well made. Thou art a rare sword.
Okay.
Not many would have accepted the offer, but I require as much of those under my command. I anticipate good work from thee. Good. Then I ask we proceed with haste. Art thou aware of the star that struck Limgrave? It left a vast crater, and through it lieth the eternal city of Nokron. Go there to find the city's hidden treasure.
Okay, yes, we're going to Naklan. And then a hyphen die.
Oh, so you were the one.
Okay, well done.
Lady Rani has explained everything. You've defeated General Radahn, unlocking the stars. A grand reward, justly procured by any measure. Again, I am Iji, the Karian royal family's dedicated blacksmith, and Lady Rani's war counselor. I welcome one of your caliber. A fellow champion in service of Lady Rani. Let us give all that we can of ourselves, together, for Lady Rani.
I see. You must be Rani's new hireling. Yes, I've heard all about you. I am Celovis, preceptor in the sorcerous arts. I don't know what it is the mistress sees in a provincial tarnished like you, but since we have the misfortune of serving the same lady, I ask that you kindly try not to drag us all down with you. I reside in...
I just like us to the lake of blood. Okay.
I reside. Come and pay me if should you wish. If it were up to me, I wouldn't waste. But who am I to stand against?
Okay, I cannot leave. Where can't I leave? Gilba. Now it can we. We'll dig up. Oh. I'll dig. Who I in there? Fine. I'll be able to need to do down there. Okay, so. We talk with people, get played down to the knuckle. Okay. Ah, okay. So, I'll go over there. It seems that that's where Blaine did. Now. Yeah, but Great Eye there. It's big. Not that awful yet. Okay, I'm down here. Good. There, you can't come down. Can I just do the wheel and bear from down here? Okay. And it is well ended for the day. Get you once I get to the river, I'll be mad. And we get the stinger diver down there. We should reconvene outside the. Well, once I get to the position where I can get to a Stale of the Void. Like,